Hey guys, welcome back. So last week we went over the back garden to show you everything we have growing back there. Today I thought I'd give you a quick little update on how the front of the house is doing and Griffin's garden.
We got tomatoes and cucumbers and what is this again? Nasturtium and
Something in the back.
and basil and we are gonna cut the cucumbers off.
What
So
is that flying around?
a bumblebee or just a bee.
What do bumblebees do?
They pollinate plants.
Excellent. Alright, let's get that cucumber up top.
Do I gotta be careful?
Trim it up there.
Do you need
One.
another one? There's another one in there.
Uh-oh.
What?
Something's been eating it. Look, something's been eating this cucumber. Alright, trim this off. We gotta get rid of this off the vine.
Something was in that cucumber. Maybe it was a deer. Deers love cucumbers and everything else. I don't think anything ate that one.
Good.
Yep, I don't think anything ate it. Cucumber. Okay, it's super tight. There. Okay, let me get in. What? Almost looks like a pickle.
Starting over here, we have our Eastern Red Bud that we got from the Arbor Day Foundation. It's doing really well. It's the only one that we had to actually survive. Our blueberries, which haven't produced anything, but they looks like they made it through winter inside and are doing well. These are Echinacea that I grew from seeds. We're going to try to let these sprout for a little bit longer, and then we're going to start moving these into the ground. A couple of our strawberries. Our mint has exploded up here, and these are two different Scotch bonnets. We've got our red and our yellow. We've got a lot of the green peppers in here right now, so we're just waiting for them to start to turn, and then we can start using it and making our hot sauce. Our beets are about ready to harvest, and this little guy we found underneath one of our dead trees in one of our pots, and this is a tomato plant. Now over here we have some random nasturtium that seems to have popped up. But we're going to talk about the first section of our garden bed, our front garden bed. We have our dark grasses, which we had to replace 3 or 4 of them in this area because they just didn't seem to have recovered from winter. And we replaced one of our St. John's worts. We have sangria over here in 2 of those, but this one we replaced with a Pinot. And back behind our St. John's worts is our Amber Jubilee 9-bark, which is starting to explode over here. It really likes the sun in the area where we have it. It gets good morning and early afternoon sun over here, and then it starts to get a lot of shade in the afternoon. Our Daub junipers. And these are laced up elderberries. And I've previously talked about this, but this is going to be our twisty baby locust. It was about 6 feet tall when we planted it last year, and it is significantly bigger than that. It's grown quite a bit. It's really filled out. We did have flowers this year, and it really is a showstopper. Now over here, everything's really starting to fill out. We did replace a lot of that grass we had out here with our dark grasses in the early spring. Our columbine is at the end of its life. It did flower in spring and the early summer. And we got a couple areas of coneflowers. We have these guys right here. They produced a white flower. They're starting to fade just a little bit. We've planted everything in with succession, so we have different blooms at different times. So these guys are fading out just as some of our allium is starting to bloom up. Got our grasses, our 3 mugo pines here, here and back here. And Gaillardia, it's starting to do real nice. We did have a casualty in the spring. Graham trampled this. It still seems to be alive. Hopefully it'll make it until next year and maybe we can have a third one of these come up. And moving around, we've got our twisty baby locust. It seems to like its new spot over here. We've been lucky enough to not to have a ton of Japanese beetles in the area. After examining this, I don't believe we have any. Last year this thing got eaten up real quick. Over here we have our Walker's Low Catmint. We planted something that's going to stay fairly low. It gets to be about 2 feet tall and wide. We wanted to be able to keep the opening here for the window so we don't really obstruct the view in or out. Make sure that room still gets a lot of its south-facing sun. We got this little guy. This is our raspberry bush. This is going to be going back in the back garden. That'll be a future video. We got some stuff planned for this and our blueberry bush, but we'll hit that up on a different day. And go back to our Mugo pines. We have two variety here. This one is our dwarf. We have two of these, one here and one here. And the one back here is actually our NC. Now the big difference is these dwarves will actually be a little bit bigger than the NC. This one gets to be about 8 to 10 feet wide, while the NC only gets to be about 4 to 5 feet wide. They both get to be about 5 feet tall, so they should blend in real nice together. All right, we got 3 of our dwarf fountain grasses. They're all doing really well. They like this area. We've got it kind of separating, creating a nice little flowy backdrop to Mugo pines. We only had one of our red hot pokers that actually came up this year. They've already bloomed. We've cut them back. Maybe if we're lucky, we might get another bloom out of them later on in the summer. Now right in the center, we've got our deer villa. It's already bloomed and it's already been cut back. It bloomed in the late spring and early summer. You can see some of the remnants of the flowers still here, lingering on. Now originally last year we did have this whole area filled with different types of cone flowers and a different variety. I know we had at least 3 different types of colors, pink, purples, and then some yellows. This year it looks like only the yellows come back, and it's come back really nicely. It's done really well. This little guy didn't quite make it. He didn't do as well as we thought because he got eaten up by a deer right away when he was really young, but it's fighting back. So we'll see what color it turns when it starts to actually bloom. In the mix, really standing out, these guys have really been a showstopper since they started to bloom in the beginning of the summer. These are our Rebecca. We planted these up here. They had a nice pop of color and it's really showing through here. Now last year we were looking for some other color variety and something to plant that would be just kind of a late bloomer, late summer into the fall. We planted our sedum over here. We actually picked these guys up from right underneath the crabapple tree. We moved them over and they seem to be doing really well. They're actually growing a lot bigger and they're flourishing over here a lot better than they are actually underneath the tree. What do you got? Don't shoot me. There's no water in there, is there? Now these rocks we actually got from a neighbor. They were dug up from when he actually dug out his garage. And we have a couple of them. We got 3 over here and another 4 underneath the birch tree. Now, trying to create a little bit of consistency from over on the other side of the garden, we do have some more of our Daub junipers over here. Careful! Got some more taller grass. I believe these are called blue stem grasses. Now we're entering into one of our interesting areas. We have a veronica in the front that did pretty well and made it through the winter. We've got our bearded tongue in the background, these guys here. They've already bloomed probably mid-summer, and as they were fading, the blooms were fading, the alliums really started to come up and you can see they're really popping with color. Now this little section here, we really enjoyed it. We really like the way these two plants go together, so we decided to mimic that here. And these are very young versions. This is about what they looked like last year. We have a different variety of bearded tongue, but this should bloom up very nicely. Look very similar to what we have planted over here. And we have our alliums up here. Now the tops of the buds are starting to droop a little bit, and that's the beginning before they start to bloom. You'll see they'll start to perk up like these guys over here just before they start opening them up. As it gets older, it's going to fill out nicely, and the way it's planted with the succession bloom times, that it is going to always have some sort of interest, some sort of color, some sort of variety at all times throughout the year. Now for our tiger, our sumac. We were actually very concerned about this last year because a deer went at it and ripped off most of the bark off of one of the main branches. We're real concerned because that was the biggest one, and that's where we had most of the leafing on it last year. But this year it kind of made up for it. It compensated by having the smaller branches that were on the side really took hold and took over, and it filled out real nicely. These are all of our cotoneasters. We cut these back in, I believe, the fall of 2020, and they have come back with a vengeance. Now they're already over 5 feet tall in most cases. I think we're going to go one more year with them and then do another hard trim back. Now for our smoke bush garden. We have a Russian sage in the front. They're starting to yellow out a little bit. I think they're getting a little too much water, so we got to be a little bit more careful with that. But our smoke bush is doing really well. We don't have any flowering yet, but the plant itself has definitely doubled in size. We have our ornament we picked up at the Cedarburg Strawberry Fest. I'll leave a link for that video and where we actually picked it up. And then as a backdrop behind everything, we have our Lemony lace elderberries. So I don't know if you can imagine, once this actually fills all the way in, you're going to have that bright greenish yellow as a backdrop to this maroon and dark green smoke bush when it has its nice pink flowers as it blooms, with our green and purple Russian sage in the front here. Now for the front, we've got our hardy pampas grass here and our black lace elderberry. The black lace is coming back. It's doing pretty good. It did get chewed up by a deer last year, but it seems to have a lot of new sprouts, a lot of new leaves, so things are coming back. We just got to trim this up. This area will get filled out. We will be putting some stuff down and mulching it out to create a new garden bed, but really it's going to be after we start tearing the rest of this out. Now opposite of that, the pampas grass on this side didn't quite make it, so we had to pull that out, and we did. And we have our other black lace elderberry. It's not doing as well as the one on the other side, but it's still doing pretty good. All right, over here we've got our 9-bark and our dogwood. They're getting a little bit of water right now, but as they get bigger and as they grow, they're going to start shading this area out and add a nice protection to our shade garden. You can see our makeshift fence that we had to create because the deer were coming after it. I transplanted another hosta over here, and these are the ones that we planted in the spring. They're starting to pop up. They're doing pretty good. We have our Empress Wu Hosta in the center. It's going to fill out nicely. It's going to get real big. Should fill out this entire area. And these are all the hostas we got from a friend last year. They're surrounding, creating a border around our oak leaf hydrangea. We didn't get any flowers on it this year, but the plant is doing really well. It's still nice and green, still looks very healthy. Alright, over here we're moving into our shade area, and we've got our heuchera. First up is going to be our Timeless Night heuchera, and then we've got our caramel. The Timeless Night seems to be slightly stunted. It says it's okay for full to part sun and it's good for shade, but they don't seem to be doing as well as the caramel. The caramel is really thriving. It's really popped up and grown quite a bit. Behind the heuchera we have our brunnera. This is absolutely doubled in size. It's doing really well. It likes its place where it is here. And surrounding the Empress Wu, we've got our astilbe. It's already bloomed. It's on its way down. Over in this corner we have our Limelight Hydrangea. It's just starting to get its blooms now. It's doing real well. It's easily doubled in size since we planted it. And here's our swamp milkweed. It's gotten big and it's made some new friends. All of this is all the milkweed that's come up from this one plant and its seeds it's dropped. There's a few grass and weeds in there too, but I think what we might end up doing is possibly transplanting this to a different area and see if we can make a butterfly garden out of it. Move around to this side of the house where our lilacs are. We had one that didn't make it, so we pulled it. I'm not sure what we're going to put in this space in the meantime, or if we may just try to move one of the lilacs over. Then on the side of our little shed, we've got all of our daylilies that are slowly popping up one after another. They just started blooming last week. Some more of our hostas on the side of the house. They're starting to bloom. And our Japanese maple. I'll pop up a link for the video where we planted this. Alright, and that's going to be it for today, guys. We showed you the east side of the house and the south end of the house. Now, what's going to be coming up in the next week or so, we actually redid the west side of our house completely and have it all done. Now, I'll show you a video, I'll give you a little sneak peek of that here at the end, and then stay tuned for our next video because that's going to show us how we did the renovation to it and what we planted and everything we did. So that's going to be it for today, guys. As always, thanks for watching. We'll see you soon.